Yorkers expect that trend to change that's higher than the nationwide average?
If you look across the nationwide average, we have 70% of the individuals that we've arrested and detained have criminal convictions or charges against them, either in this country or other. We're continuing to do our work to bring those criminal illegal aliens to justice. And ICE will continue to get up every day and do what they can to protect New York City. I can have Frank or Ken speak to if you know how many criminal convictions of the 54 had previous to this arrest that they had. I don't know if you have those data points with you.
Numbers,
we can get those for you, though. Exactly. The vast majority of them, though, have criminal charges against them or convictions against them as well. Yes.
Where were the 54 people from? Were they all part of the Trinitario? And what's their immigration status?
Again, loosely affiliated to the Trinitarios. I want to make that clear. Through connections connections that we made by speaking to them, understanding who they were, where they were operating out of, and contacts that they had on their phones. Immigration status, all illegals.
So does loosely connected mean they just knew someone who was in the gang? They were not members?
It varies. It varies spectrum from speaking to individuals associated with the gang to just having conversations.
Secretary, in October we saw mass protests and armored vehicles rolling down Canal Street. How do we ensure that we don't see another situation like what happened yesterday here in Manhattan?
What I would encourage everyone to do, and especially your elected officials, is to bring everybody together, to talk about partnerships and start working with ICE and start working with CBP as we bring criminals to justice. And many times your policies and the rhetoric coming out of elected officials has divided people and pitted them against each other. Our job every day, and what President Trump promised to do, was to protect every single American, no matter where they lived in this country, that he was going to make sure that we weren't going to have more victims in this country. And we are going to continue to do that each and every day. And I'd encourage the leaders in this city and your governor and in other cities and states across this country to work with us rather than opposing us so that we can continue to make our streets safer. Yes, right here.
Hi.
Yep.
This is not the only example, the one that you bring up today, of officers being attacked by alleged gang members in New York City. We also had those officers who were attacked in Times Square back in May. With these examples, has Mayor Mamdani and his administration offered to cooperate when it comes to getting criminal gang members off the streets? Because we know he is not a fan of ICE, but when it comes to criminal gangs, is there any kind of leeway that has been given them?
You know, we're hoping the mayor will work with us to get these criminal elements and especially gang members and terrorist organizations out of New York City. I know he and the president had a productive conversation. Our communication at the Department of Homeland Security has not been productive with the mayor's office or with NYPD, but we want to continue those conversations so we can work together. Yes.
Director Russo spoke about how this operation happened discreetly in cover of darkness, and that's how it should be, which is in contrast to what happened in Minneapolis yesterday. You said
What do you mean in contrast to what happened in?
very, if not very much not.
Because of the protesters and the violent criminals that were attacking our law enforcement. If you remember in that operation, what happened was our officers were out trying to get a car stuck out of the snow when they were surrounded and assaulted and blocked in by protesters that were inciting.
The officer was following his training.
He did follow his training because of an individual that was.
Point blank into a driver's window. Is that part of the training? How is that self-defense?
This is an experienced officer who followed his training, and we will continue to let the investigation unfold into the individual and continue to follow the procedures and policies that happen in these use of force cases. But let's remember the events that surrounded what happened yesterday on that tragic situation was that these individuals had followed our officers all day, had harassed them, had blocked them in. They were impeding our law enforcement operations, which is against the law. And when they demanded and commanded her to get out of her vehicle several times, she did not. So we'll continue to allow this process to unfold and recognize that these law enforcement officers every single day put their lives on the line. They go out and do their jobs. They go out and this was an act of domestic terrorism, which is perpetuating. These policies and procedures that follow a use of force situation like this are continuing to be put in place. So this is standard operating procedure after every use of force situation, is that we follow these procedures and protocols. This situation is no different. Back there. Nope, this young lady right beside you. I'll come to you next.
Thank you so much. Should we expect a surge of agents in New York City, and if so, when?
I would say that President Trump and his administration are focused on protecting people. So we will never telegraph exactly the numbers and operations that we have and where we will be focused on. But I think that when you see violent criminals that are taking advantage of American citizens and putting their lives in jeopardy, our law enforcement officers at DHS will always show up. Yes. I'll come back. I'll come back. Go ahead.
Secretary, the officer involved in the shooting yesterday, has he been suspended or is he still in the field?
The officer went to the hospital. He was hit by the vehicle, went to hospital and received treatment, was released, and is spending time with his family now.
And is he still
Yes, sir?
Yes. In Minneapolis yesterday, you said the surge there would continue. You didn't directly say whether we can expect an ICE surge for civil deportation enforcement. Can you explain what a surge is?
I won't describe in detail our law enforcement operations that we have. It's just puts our officers' lives in jeopardy, but they will be there enforcing the laws of this country and upholding the public safety needs that have to happen when it comes to enforcing federal law.
So will this be just homeland security investigations?
You know, we've got thousands of officers there, and I'm not opposed to sending more if necessary to keep people safe. Back up here.
Secretary, can you talk a little bit about the experience of the officer and some of his background? How much training did he have? How much training in these types of situations did he have, even if he's from the region?
Yeah, I'm not going to get specific to this officer, but he's an experienced officer that has served a number of years, and we recognize that he acted according to his training, and we have expect that all the policies and procedures of review will be exactly that he acted appropriately to protect his life and the life of his colleagues and fellow law enforcement officers that were there and people that were surrounding. Yes.
I'd like to get your reaction on some of the rhetoric here in New York City. Mayor Salvo responded to the shooting yesterday, saying that this is only the latest horror in a year full of cruelty. He called it an attack on us all, that New York stands with immigrants today and every day. Also, council members last night at the protest called this fascism. The New York City's public advocate, Jumaane Williams, said that your administration is, quote, doing the devil's work, and he asked New York City to stand up and show up, quote, it's going to be difficult and there are going to be casualties. And the last comment that was made last night at the protest was from New York State Representative Alex Boros, also a Democrat. Quote, not only was the ICE agent's hand on the gun, but Secretary Noem's hand was on the gun. President Trump's hand was on the gun. What is your response to New York Democratic leaders, those particular comments, and the protesters that are outside?
I would say those comments are why we're standing where we are today. That kind of language and that kind of provocative talk, inciting people to take action and perpetuate violence in some cases, is unacceptable, and especially of elected leaders. We have a responsibility to state the facts, to go out and enforce the law. Your mayor just said in that statement that he was going to stand with illegal people who have broken our law before he's going to put New York City citizens first. His job and why he was elected was to protect the people who live here, that had the opportunity to vote for him and have the opportunity to live in this city. They pay their taxes, they go to work every day, and instead the mayor in that statement chose to stand with illegals instead of those individuals who just want the chance to raise their families in New York City and have a part of the American dream. Yes.
The head of Minnesota State Investigations Agency said that they had been cut out of the investigation into the fatal shooting in Minneapolis. Can you explain that reversal?
I'd like to know where they've been and why they're not out on the streets investigating all of these people that are harassing and inciting violence on law enforcement officers right now. They're allowing the situation to be volatile. They're not doing their work. They haven't for years, and maybe they should get to work a little bit on the unprecedented fraud that we've seen in Minnesota and in Minneapolis by people that stole from American citizens and diverted funds away from vulnerable people and programs and services that they needed and put it into their own pockets. Minnesota is a train wreck. It is corrupt, and it was under the leadership of Governor Walz and this mayor that they allowed it to happen, and they let criminals and illegals and people abuse programs and steal the money, and now they're allowing violence to go forward on the streets as well.
This also applies to the Minneapolis Police Department, the county sheriffs, the federal authorities at this point, they don't want
I won't put a blanket statement out like those other individuals will. What I would say is I welcome them to come and help us. Come help us make sure that the streets are safe, that laws are enforced, and that we can do the right thing to make sure that American citizens come first. Yes, sir. They have not been cut out. They don't have any jurisdiction in this investigation. Yes, go ahead. I'm going to speak to this individual right here. Yes. Mm-hmm.
How do you respond to Americans who have been listening to your comments
Mm-hmm.
that this was an act of domestic terrorism,
Mm-hmm.
that the officer was...
Anytime you take something...
It is in direct contradiction to what they are seeing and watching in the multiple angles that have been released.
What I would...
24 hours.
This vehicle was used to hit this officer. It was used as a weapon, and the officer feels as though his life was in jeopardy. It was used to perpetuate a violent act that this officer took action to protect himself and to protect his fellow law enforcement officers. So we'll let this continue to go forward and follow the same policies and procedures that every use of force situation does. But we've had almost over 100 times that these vehicles have been used to ram law enforcement officers and to do damage and to harm them. When you take an action and use a weapon to harm someone and to incite violence against them and try to cause them injury or death, then it needs to be labeled exactly what it was.
Do you believe the use of force in this instance was commensurate with the actions of that vehicle and the driver?
I would say that when these individuals use their vehicles to try to ram our law enforcement and to put their lives in jeopardy, that law enforcement officer has to make a decision to protect his life and the individuals around him as well. Yes.
What did you make of Tom Homan's comments yesterday that we should wait for an investigation before determining, as you have, that in this incident it was self-defense and that he felt that his life was in danger?
You know, I didn't see those comments, but from what I understand, he also put out a statement later as well. So I'll let Tom speak to that. But all of us are on the same page in the fact that this law enforcement officer followed his training and that he defended and acted in defense of his life and those around him. Yes.